Welcome to Spirit Journey Collective. I'm your host, Sarah Ty. Get ready for compelling conversations with guests of all walks of life who believe they have found their purpose. Together, we will uncover unique backstories, hearing the raw experiences that led them to the work they are doing today. Let's expand our minds together with the captivating stories and inspiration that awaits. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Spirit Journey Collective. I have a really wonderful guest today. Her name is Crystal Robinson, and she's a transformational coach. And I can't wait to dive in to see what all that entails. But first off, thank you so much for being here today, Crystal.
Thank you for having me, Sarah. I'm very excited about being on your podcast.
I'm so excited to have you. I love anything that has to do with transformation and evolution. So I can't wait to dive into what you offer. So why don't you share a little bit about what it means to be a transformational coach?
Well, I'm actually a National Board Certified Health and Wellness Coach and a Chopra Certified Total Wellbeing Coach. And I took all of my teachings and all of my certifications, which are, I have more. It's just kind of, you don't want to hear me list them all, right? And turned it into transformational coach because this is what people need. They're looking for the transformation to go into the next thing. Mostly, I work with high achieving professionals and entrepreneurs who are in overwhelm or burned out or disconnected from their health, their clarity, or even their deeper purpose. So my work bridges the science and the soul. So I offer this coaching that integrates the mind, body, and the spirit for real lasting change.
That's awesome. And I love how you ground it in science too, because I think for some people it's like, oh, that's too woo woo for me, right? But it's a combination of both. And so it's like you're working with the left and the right brain at the same time, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's definitely something that's rooted in me. I come from 34 years in mechanical engineering. So my background is very science-based. And then in 2020, after having a brain tumor, I became a medium. So I was totally woo and totally science and had to figure out how to mix it all together. And this is how I do.
Okay, so this is a great segue because normally my next question is what's your backstory into this work? And so now I need to hear that. That's amazing. So was it going through having a tumor that led you to being a coach to begin with, or what were you doing prior?
It was it was that I think that was the final catalyst that kind of pushed me over the fence. I had many catalysts. I write about those in an anthology book that I'm in called The Change Insights into Self-Empowerment. So it was over 30 years in engineering, 25 of those in leadership. I did the whole like climb the corporate ladder thing, wife, mom of two kids. I was like super successful on paper, but inside I was like exhausted. I ignored all the whispers in my body until they literally turned into screams. Multiple autoimmune conditions, lupus, medical PTSD from anaphylactic shock reactions from multiple foods that I was never allergic to before, and then the brain tumor. Finally, leading to the point where I'm living a life that's really not mine. I felt like I was living to everybody else's expectations as opposed to my own. So that was like my wake up call. I realized that success without my health, clarity, or peace wasn't really success. So my journey led me to like my own deep healing and eventually using what I learned to help others to avoid what I went through, to avoid getting a brain tumor by reconnecting with their true selves.
Yeah, I hear that over and over and over again when I talk to different people. There's always a catalyst. There's always, and not always, but most of the time, I hear I did all the things. I checked off all the boxes. I did what I was quote supposed to do. It's like the same story over and over, just different outcome, right? But the outcome is always about getting closer to more authenticity, but of course everyone has their different version of what that looks like. But it's like the same story though. It fascinates me. So, I mean, so you reach this point where you realize I can't, it's not sustainable the way I'm living life anymore. And I loved how you mentioned that you reached a point where you realized you were basically just living for everyone else except for yourself. And I hear that all the time too. It's like our biggest journey is back to ourselves. And, unless you're awake enough to know that about what's going on, it just feels like the world's crumbling around you. But that's actually just the spiritual two by four, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And actually my debut book is coming out in about a month. It's called Mission Me 2.0, The Science and Soul of Coming Back to You.
Oh,
So it's
that's awesome.
launching, and it's a both my personal story and a guidebook to reclaim your life from the inside out with the science and the soul and some action items, everything kind of rolled into one.
That's amazing. You'll definitely have to give me the link so that way we can share that so listeners can find that when it's out. That's so exciting. So I do have some questions though. This is a little bit like not fully on the transformational coach, which we'll definitely get to, but what was it like realizing you were a medium? Like that's a whole other conversation, but I'm so fascinated by that.
I thought it was crazy. I thought it was maybe side effects of having brain surgery. But then I realized that these were things that I had in my life previous that I had pushed away. I thought back to, times when I was young. And when you're a busy mother, a busy career woman, all of those things, anything that pops up in your life that isn't normal, you just shove away. You really like symptoms. Oh, it's just normal. It'll go away, right? And those are the types of things that I just never focused on. And for me, growing up, it was almost like too woo, like people would laugh and think you were crazy. I remember when I was younger, it was like, oh, she's got such a great imagination. She's so creative. Like those are the things that you hear. Um, but when it came on, it was literally like, I know these voices aren't in my head. Why do I know these things about people? Why do I know these things about people's loved ones? Like it was just like people on the street. I'd go to a restaurant, I'd be sitting in a restaurant and I'd see like a waitress walk by and I'd be like, oh, she's having a tough time at home. Her husband is awful. Like things would like just pop in and I'd be like, how do I shut this off? And that's really what it came down to for me. Like I had to learn how to shut it off. I had to go find myself a medium and be like, what is this? How do I deal with this? And how do I use it as a tool to help people as opposed to just like something that's driving me insane? And that's what I did. I did learn that. I read all the books I could read on it. I worked with another medium. And then now it's just a tool. It's just one of my tools in my toolbox. I did do readings for a while, and that was just too draining for me to just do that on a regular basis. And I'm not the type to like do a gallery or perform or anything like that. And I have a lot of people that wanted me to do that, and I'm like, no, that's just not me. I'll give somebody some information if it pops up, and sometimes it does. I'll be sitting with somebody, and I'll be like, I have something that kind of came in like a download. Are you open to that? And I'll ask because some people just don't want to hear it either.
I really love how you explain you were able. I mean, I can understand. I'm not personally medium, and I've been told that I am. I haven't unlocked that part of me yet, so I don't know if I really am or not. I am an intuitive though, and I read tarot cards. That's my business. That's what I do for, my job. And so but when it comes to mediumship and what I've heard is it you have to really set boundaries when especially when you're not sure what's happening. It's like you need to learn how to say, okay, I'm not open for business right now, so to speak, right? Like but I love how you're able to put it into a spot for yourself. You're like, okay, this is just a tool. It's not something that runs my life. It's something now that I can access. And I think that a lot of people don't realize that when you have gifts like mediumship, or it sounds like you also have some psychic abilities in there too that goes beyond just those that passed on, right?
Mm.
It's that same thing of learning that it's not just on all the time. And if it is on all the time, then that's where you need to learn how to set some healthy boundaries around that. So it sounds like you were able to not only do that, but now use it, like hone it into a way where it works for you and it's not, you're working for it, if that makes sense.
Exactly. That does make sense. That's exactly what I had to do. I had to learn how to do that. Originally, I kind of felt like I was in a cage and everybody was trying to talk to me.
Mm.
Everybody who was either passed on or people that were like in the room that were just in their heads, whatever it was. And I felt like I was just stuck in that cage. And once I learned, oh, it's like a switch. I can just shut it off. I can just be like, okay, guys, not open for business right now. I can't deal. And I definitely have to do that when I'm in like crowded places, if I'm on a plane, anything like that. Now it's just natural. It just happens. I just shut off, turn on. I don't have to think about it. But originally, I really kind of had to like focus on those boundaries and focus on what was important for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. What a cool backstory, though. I mean, I'm sorry that you went through everything you went through because I'm sure when you were going through it, it wasn't cool or, you know what I mean? It was a lot of trauma and everything else
What I
back.
say
It's
to people though is when they say
Mhm.
that they're sorry, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not sorry because if I didn't go through all of those things, I wouldn't be who I am today.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be able to help people like I can now.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't have written, you know, that first chapter in that book. I wouldn't have written the book that's coming out. I wouldn't be a coach. I wouldn't have left the engineering career that I hated so much because even though I was really good at it and very successful in it, like I totally wouldn't be who I am right now. I'd be somebody else.
Yeah. No, 100%. Like that's my belief is that everything is happening for you, not to you, right? I was always try to tread carefully because sometimes, sometimes someone might hear, like, wow, what a cool backstory, and think, you really, really, like that was traumatic for me. And so I'd like always try to like honor both sides of that. But 100%, I think that honestly, I try to see even the most difficult situations I think is happening for us. And that could be controversial depending on who you're talking to.
Yes, it can be. It can be. But I think once you get yourself into that mindset, it changes everything that happens in your life. It changes how you approach everything and how you deal with everything, right? You deal with it differently. When all those things start to pile on you, you don't catastrophize. You don't like end up in that black hole anymore. But, I've been there. We all were there. But once we learn how to not be there, we never want to be there again.
Exactly. And I think, it helps you be more aware too. So when you catch yourself falling into the black hole, when you don't know about it, you can't change it. So that's just the cycle. But when you're able to even when you find yourself falling into that black hole and you're actually catching it, like, oh, wait, I'm spiraling right now. Now you actually have the power to do something with it. And I feel like that's the part that people miss who, do kind of almost wear what they've been through as like a badge of honor in a way, like, I'm the victim of this. And it's like, but when you see it that way, you're giving away your power. But when you're able to say, hey, I grew from this, I learned from this, I evolved from this, now you could do something with it, and actually kind of take back your power. So
Yeah.
I love that so much.
Yeah, that's so true. Like that, you can fall into that. I fell into that when the lupus hit after dealing with, the autoimmune conditions that I was dealing with and the anaphylactic shock and medical trauma, all of that. I did end up in that kind of black hole. Like I ended up, in the victim mentality. And there was other things that happened in my professional life and, sexual harassment and traumas in there. And I ended up in that victimhood. And the more you just let those things weigh on you, the heavier your life becomes. And once I learned how to address those things and change how I thought about everything in my life, it just opened up avenues completely different. I was able to heal from things. I'm not on any medications. The lupus doesn't run me. The autoimmune conditions don't run me. And by the time the brain tumor came, I was just like, okay, let's do the research. What's next? What are they going to do? Oh, I'm going to have screws in my head? Cool. I was just like, right? It just kind of changes like your perspective on things. And if you don't have a better perspective, then what you really believe you will achieve. So if you believe that you're going to be in that black hole, that's where you'll be.
I forget who says it, but whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so true.
So, in everything that you're doing now and that you're offering, do you feel like you've found your purpose in the work that you're doing?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's why I left the engineering career. A very lucrative, successful engineering career. I was vice president of an international multi-million dollar company. I I really realized that this just wasn't me. I wasn't following my path. And that all of these things that were happening for me or to me or whatever anybody wants to say was pushing me into the direction I needed to go in. And when I wasn't listening, then something else would happen to push me more. All of those things would just keep happening and kind of like a synchronicity to put me in alignment with what I'm meant to do. And now that I follow that path and I kind of know my purpose, I would say no. I wouldn't say kind of. I know my purpose. I actually have a purpose statement and I help people create their own purpose statements. I help people find that. And I can use that whenever I have to answer a life question. Whenever I'm stuck in making a decision, I look at what my purpose statement says and it sends me back into alignment with what's best for me. And I'll even share that. It's my purpose statement that I had created. It's kind of morphed a little since I started creating it. Is I am the guiding light who inspires people on their transformational journey.
Yeah. It's knowing your why. It's knowing, why you get up every day. Why are you putting your energy in this direction? And so what is it about what you do that lights you up, that makes you know, okay, this is it?
When I sit across from a client and I feel the light up when they are reconnecting with their power, when they have that moment that they realize that they don't have to stay stuck, that they don't have to be overwhelmed, they don't have to be sick, they don't have to be any of those things. You only have to be what you think you are. And once you can start changing your mindset and you're shifting your perspectives, it's the transformation at the heart of my coaching. It's the reason why I wrote this book. It's the reason why I do what I do. We all have so much potential and we just don't tap into it.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny. I get asked because I'm a tarot reader, so I do podcasts, I do events, and I do one-on-one sessions. And usually at events or on podcasts, I'll get asked, so is this something that anyone can do, or is it just like some special people are picked to do this? And I'm like, well, everyone has the potential to pick up some cards and use them, whether it's personal or whatever. So, but no one is chosen because we're all chosen. And so that's why, so what my definition of purpose, which I think you highlighted beautifully and how you explained, you know, how it lights you up and why you believe it is your purpose, is that my definition is that it lights you up, it fulfills you in ways that you could never imagine, right? And it gives back. And then by giving back, it's seeing what your work is doing in the world for the people you're working with, like that direct transformational energy that you're working with. And so yeah, I just love that so much. And yeah, so and I love how you're also like, because I do feel like those that are plugged into their purpose, and it doesn't matter if they're a coach or if they're in the service industry, because you could be an artist, you could be a dancer, you could be in corporate America and love what you're doing, right? And still feel like you're
Yeah.
making a difference. Like you can do any of these things, but it's also being able to understand that we all have that potential. It's that building each other. It's what is that saying? A tide raises all ships or something like that. It's that same
Mhm.
mentality of knowing that you're shining your own light while also helping other people shine theirs.
Yeah. And once I actually discovered that purpose, it kind of shifted even how I approached my engineering position. I led teams, I worked with multiple departments. It shifted kind of how I did that. Like I really enjoyed the mentorship part of it and how I could, lift people up that were around me. That was the only thing I still enjoyed about doing that work was working in those teams, working with those people, and using that purpose to do what I felt I was finally meant to do.
Yeah. It sounds like it was just kind of showing you in bits and pieces where you're trying to go. Like your soul's like, hey, this is kind of like what you're trying to do, but let's push you a little bit more. It's where it's more what you're meant to be. You know what I mean? Like it's like I always like to say that, purpose can evolve and does evolve, right? And so it sometimes you could do the same thing as a therapist that you do as a you could be a teacher and still kind of offer what you would as a therapist in a sense. Like there's usually that core thing that underlies everything. And so it sounds like for you, it was more like those breadcrumbs of like, I kind of like this aspect, but how can I morph it into something that's more authentic, right?
Yeah, and I think when you're aligning yourself with your purpose, the universe collaborates, right? And you'll go down certain avenues. And I kind of went down the mediumship avenue and I'm like, well, I can help people with this. But then it didn't feel right. And then other doors would open up and I would follow down those. And I had worked with a holistic nutritionist for like 10 years for myself. And he opened up a program to get certified through him. So I'm like, oh, this is totally right up my alley. And I did that. And that kind of started me on that coaching where I was like, I felt like I was kind of doing that in the mediumship and in tarot. And I coach through tarot too. I love tarot. We should like read for each other. That would be fun.
Oh my God, I
Um,
love that.
and use that as a tool, right? And then just kind of expanding. So whenever I would hit like kind of a brick wall, I kind of knew that like the next door would open up. And even when it came into getting certified as a coach, like there's so many different ways to get certified. And when I found Deepak Chopra's group, it was just like, I love Deepak. He's science and woo. He is both mixed together. So that's my type of program. And then when I looked into that program, it was like it had everything I needed to get certified as a health and wellness coach, national board, and use my woo, and I could mix them together. And it's now I'm doing solution focused brief therapy program certification, which you can do as a psychotherapist, but you can also do as a coach. And I use that, and I've been using that in my coaching for the past couple of years. After I met Elliot Connie, who I think is brilliant and solution focused, and it as soon as something like lands in your lap, you find if it like weighs right? If it weighs in the direction that you want to go or not. And if it feels like it's too much work, that it's sluggish, then it probably isn't for you. Not that it's not hard. Like, it's hard to get certified. It's hard to take the test. It's hard to do the work. But when hard feels aligned, it's not slug, right? It's a different feeling, and really listening to your body and knowing what feels right. And for me, the mediumship felt sluggish. It was like, oh, I can't sit here and read for person after person who's lost somebody, and one person lights up and the next person leaves in tears. And it didn't matter. It was just like, oh, this isn't where I'm supposed to be. And I just kept finding the right alignment, and I continue to do that. The book is just another way for me to do that, to let people know that it's never too late to write your story.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. Just your story in general, it's so cool because it's the hero's journey essentially, right? And everyone's on their own version of that, but it's just like you're now at the point where you've done a lot of that earlier work, so now it's just a little bit I don't know if easier is the right word because it's never really easy to fully navigate that because we're human, right? So we still have our
Yeah.
human feelings, but it's more simpler in the sense that it's like you kind of know, okay, so this doesn't feel right. So now what? And I think a lot of people feel like their purpose is a one and done. So they think they find it. And then when they feel stuck, they're like, why am I stuck? And then there's this other idea of, well, maybe this was a stepping stone. Maybe this was just a doorway to the next door, the hallway. So it's like, I love how you're, explaining how, it's not always about just finding the thing and sticking with it. It's okay, this was good for a while. Now doesn't feel right. So I want to find something else. This is good for a while. And oh, look, I can expand here with this tool or this tool. And just building upon that. And I really, really love that because it just shows people that purpose and mission can be multidimensional. It's not just, the one and done thing that I think a lot of people think it is.
Not everyone wants to talk about their situation or life questions out loud. And that's okay. That's why my email tarot readings are a perfect fit for the inward seekers, the ones who feel deeply, process everything, and don't always have the words or the energy for a live session. Here's how it works. You send your question, I tune in, pull cards, and record a 17 to 25 minute voice message, channeling what comes through around your question and situation. You'll also receive a photo of the cards pulled, all delivered to your inbox within 24 hours. My intention is always to honor your journey with sincerity and heart-aligned guidance. If this feels like the kind of support you've been craving, let's connect. You can find me at the link below or at www.spiritjourneycollective.com.
Yeah, it's not a title. That's what I try to teach people when I do this purpose workshop, or the purpose, finding your purpose statement. It's it's really about like why you're here and what legacy you're leaving. It's not like, and it's about your own superpowers, like what's in you, and how you use those to make the world a better place and feel fulfilled, right? It's happy, healthy, and fulfilled, which is what I tell people my coaching does. So if you can align your purpose with something that can answer every question, like being a teacher may not be your purpose, but being a teacher is part of you fulfilling your purpose.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's so beautifully. Do you have a, I mean, I'm sure you've worked with many, many clients with many transformational stories that are just going to, blow people out of the water. But do you have one that you could share with us that just kind of illustrates, what someone experienced working with you?
Oh, I have so many. I have so many. It can range anywhere from somebody suffering with, diabetes and high blood pressure, or feeling that massive overwhelm and dealing with all kinds of health issues because of it, to somebody just, feeling like they're backspinning and not knowing what's wrong. And the big thing that people don't realize is that they don't have to do it alone. Like, that's something that everybody thinks, and it doesn't have to be wrong enough, right? You don't have to be in a hole to get support. So many of my clients are like high functioning, right? They're single moms, they're, working two jobs, they're, silently drowning in stress, resentment, or they're dealing with physical symptoms like migraines or rashes, and they just normalize it as this is just what I have to do to get through. And then I help people really come back to themselves and figure out, like, it's about, it's not about fixing them. It's about reconnecting them to what's already within, right? What they have. So I offer like a free clarity call so people can explore it, so that they know that I'm the right person to work with, because maybe I'm not the right person for everybody. But you know that, and maybe not every client is the right client for me. So I always offer that free call so that we can like really focus on what they're seeing in their life right now and what they really want out of their life, and then how to bridge that gap between where they are and where they want to go.
That's beautiful. Do you have, so I guess here's another question. Is there a common struggle that you see more often than not with your clients, like a common theme? And then maybe an advice you'd give for that struggle?
It's always self-love. Always. It always comes back to that. Somebody will come to me, I need to fix my nutrition. I'm close to being on diabetes meds. Or they'll come to me, I'm not getting along with my husband anymore. There's always a different reason they're coming in, but it all comes down to their relationships with themselves and whether or not they're honoring themselves, that they really truly love themselves, who they're being right now. And a lot of that is just shedding like those mindsets, those limiting beliefs, doing some of that shadow work and that intention work of where are you? Peel off those layers. Let's see the real you. And isn't this who you want to be going forward? And once you are that person, those layers, those sweaters, those coats, once you shed them all, it makes everything easier and lighter. And that self-love is so hard. It's something you have to work on every day. Even now, earlier you were talking about how like we have to pivot and we have to change, and the more we go through it, the more we have, right? Like I'm now feel like I'm living my purpose, but I have my own book coming out. So now I'm like, oh, I'm actually an author. Am I an author? Oh, no, I'm not an author. I'm an author. You go through, right? We all go through those things where, that imposter syndrome or that questioning ourselves. We're always our own worst critics, no matter what it is, whether it comes to what we write, what we look like, what we put out in the world, what we say. And the more we can have compassion for, okay, I'm learning every day. Every day. My grandmother's 94 and she talks about these things and we have these discussions, and she's learning still.
Yeah. Yeah. Self-love is definitely, it also comes back to worth, right? Like it's attached to worthiness and, do I deserve to be seen and heard and valued? Yeah, that's like a lifelong, that's definitely 100% a lifelong thing. I mean, I feel like I've come a long way personally, but I also know I have a long way to go. It's one of those things you're just, like you said, I loved how you described how it's like peeling back the layers or taking off the sweaters, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's funny because it reminds me of two different tarot cards. I speak in tarot. So
That's okay, bring
the
it.
two that come to mind for me on that is one is the oh gosh, no, it brings up a lot of different ones. But a big one that it brings up for me is the Hierophant, and the way that I read the Hierophant is that it's more about self-governing and self-sovereignty. But in order to get to that point, you have to figure out what was handed to you first, all the beliefs on top of it. And, a lot of our self-love comes with conditions of, do I compare to what people want me to be? Am I measuring up, right? But when you're able to start peeling back those beliefs and realizing that some of those beliefs were just given to you and you don't actually want to carry it anymore, then you start to question, well, what do I believe? And at that point you could start letting self-love in, and more of that alignment. But so that's what made me think when you're talking about peeling back the layers, is it's like that's how I describe it for the Hierophant. You're peeling back the beliefs to figure out,
Yeah.
well, what beliefs do you want still and which ones don't. And you know, and then basically choosing you, which is a radical way of saying that you're going to love yourself despite what other people might think about that. Because I always say the Hierophant almost always comes with backlash. People are like, who is this? You're not the I gave those beliefs to you for a reason. Why are you giving them away or putting them down? But of course they came with good intentions. They just didn't realize how, it wasn't really healthy. But it's
Mm.
still learning how to, in the backlash, say, choose yourself. And that's really hard. It's definitely like a radical place to be.
Yeah, totally. I can see where you're finding that symbolism within that card because that really is, that's the hierarchy, that's the mentor, that's the teacher, that's the ancestral trauma, that's all of those things that just come down the line, and those are the layers. Those are the things that are getting put on us. And what people don't always realize is we don't always know what our limiting beliefs are. Most people don't even know what their core beliefs are. It's just all, oh, this is just what I believe. You really have to like dig and see, okay, what are my core beliefs? What are my, complete green lights? And what are my complete red lights? Like when it comes to certain things. And what's in between? What's yellow, right? And the stuff that's yellow, those are limiting because they're not red or green, right? They're not all in or all out. You don't really know how you feel on that. And those are the things that tend to guide you every day. You don't realize that a limiting belief is what's making you go on your life until you hit it face on. And then you start realizing you're getting backlash and it doesn't feel good, right? And sometimes we just shove it down and it becomes, oh, I got a pain in my back now because I'm not dealing with something. So now it's in my body. And eventually, when you work through some of these things later on, oh, I've been dealing with back pain for years and there's nothing really physically wrong with me. And, you know, or, well, maybe I have a slip disc here or something, but it's like, how many people have that? Like everybody. But they're dealing with the pain because that's what they're going to attach to. When a lot of times it's a limiting belief that's holding them back from everything that's just lodged in their body. For me, that's how lupus was.
Yeah. That's why I think I like the Hierophant so much, because it's so encouraging to get to those deeper questions, because limiting beliefs, they're sneaky and we all have them.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how many you've undone at one point, there's still probably, there is more, not probably, there is more underneath, just because, we were like a sponge as children and just sucked in a bunch of knowledge, or not knowledge, but information that we use to now protect ourselves. And so I like that description though of the red light, green light, yellow light, because the yellow light's kind of like the, oh wait, I don't know. And without stopping to figure out why you don't know, it just stops you. And so that's
Mm.
just a really great way to kind of explain how a limiting belief can, without knowing why or how, or what it even is and how it can impact you without you even knowing it. So I like that description, because that makes a lot of sense.
I use that analogy with a lot of things, with beliefs, with relationships, with your boundaries. Like it really has you figure out what you're kind of hanging on to that's not really serving you or is not really the authentic you, isn't in here. Um, because if it's a full on green, why is it a full on green? Right.
Mhm.
And then, yes, this is totally me. Like the coaching was totally me. The Chopra program was totally me. Like there's certain things that we like totally jump into. Um, and then there's other things that we're just kind of plodding along and doing it, but like, why? And those are the yellows, right? We're just kind of doing them. And some of them, we jump into something and we're like, why did I do that? That was a red. I shouldn't have done it, right? So you can look at things in your life as like a stoplight, red, yellow, green, and you want as many greens as possible. It's and you know, there's Matthew McConaughey's book, Green Lights. He talks about green lights and kind of in the same way, where it was like the full body yes for him was his green lights. And when he felt like he was in flow, it was always a green light. So I guess that's a very similar analogy. If you've read that book, it's an amazing book about kind of how he went through things in his life and how he found his path.
I've heard of it. I haven't read it though. I'll have to check it out. It kind of I just had a thought. Hold on. It was there and it was gone. Oh, I've also heard people say the same thing as, is it a hell yes or is it a hell no? And if it's not a hell yes, it probably isn't a yes.
Yeah, or what I've heard people say is a full body yes, right? You feel it. It's not just a thought. You actually feel it. And it's a full body yes, you're excited. You know, you can feel your nervous system light up. If it's a full body no, you're like pulled back. You can feel the weight of it, you know? And so this is one of the things I help people with is listening to your body. It's super important and most of us ignore it for most of our lives.
Yeah. That's something that's a newer concept for me. I'm trying to incorporate my body a lot more because it's funny because in the spiritual realm, a lot of it's very esoteric. So you can get stuck up here in your mind a lot with all the spiritual stuff, but it's like your body's your vessel. And and then when you brought up so perfectly too about how when we ignore our energetic body, it comes into our physical body. So they're interconnected. And so I've been trying to do better at listening to my body, but just remembering that, like, yeah, it's this vessel was chosen for, I believe that our spirits came and chose the body that that we have, which I know comes with a lot of its own stuff to work through. Like, God, why did I choose this body? But there's a reason, right? And we have to love it for what it is and what it's doing for us and everything it does for us every single day and being able to bring it into that balance.
One of
To
the things
listen
that
to
you've
that.
just brought up for me, and this is something that a lot of people don't think of. So, you know, looking at the science really behind your mind, your body, and your spirit, they are all interwoven together. Your nervous system is connected to the energy that's outside of your body, which is your energy, which is your spirit. Your mind is connected to that nervous system, and your body physically is connected because the nervous system lives in your physical body. All three are important, and people tend to separate them all as the brain is this amazing organ, the heart is this amazing organ. They're forgetting about the energy that's outside of your body. Your body is 99.999% energy. It's only 0.001% matter. And people forget that. And they forget the miracle of the cells in your body, of what they do every day and how they created themselves and how they're constantly repairing and changing from, you know, a blood cell to another cell. This is energy. This is spiritual realm. This is what's beyond just the power of one thing. This is the power of mind, body, spirit together.
Yeah, no, I've definitely heard that. And I think actually it was Deepak Chopra, I think. Sorry, I said his name wrong. Deepak Chopra. I think I was listening to one of his um like talks and he was explaining how we have like millions of cells happening at the same, like it's different parts of our consciousness is working on keeping us alive in our body. And it was like, I never even thought of that.
Yeah,
You
and
forget.
yeah. He also says in one of his talks, and this will never leave me because I use it over and over because I'm like, it's so profound. You start with one cell, one, and it morphs and multiplies and changes. And each time they multiply, one goes to your heart, one goes to your eye, one's hair, one's skin, one's your liver. Like, what is doing that? That's
Yeah.
energy, that's spirit, that's That's the connection that creates the blood, the nervous system, the organs, the skin, like all of that. It starts from one cell.
I've never even thought about that, but 100%. I mean, yeah, that's the miracle of it.
Right. And nobody, even science, doesn't know how that happens.
Yeah.
Right? They still can't figure that out. And that's where you get all of these different beliefs, which is great, we can have all these different beliefs, but that's what it comes down to, that there's something outside of us that's not tangible. But I mean, radio waves aren't really tangible either, right? But we believe in those. We believe the fact that you and I are talking to each other from across the country, live, real time, through a
Hmm.
camera.
Right? Can't see the internet, can't see how our phones work, can't see how I mean, unless it's cold, you're not going to see the air you're breathing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Science is woo, and woo is science.
100%. I like to say it's two sides of the same coin. It's literally they're one and the same.
Yeah.
And so what you're saying too, I just have to speak to it, and then we have to move on to to my next thing because I really enjoyed talking to you, so I'm like, time, I'm gonna watch that. But I've been reading this book called Emergence by Derek Rydell. Have you heard it?
I haven't heard this one.
Okay, so I highly recommend checking it out. He also has another book that it's funny. I read his newer book before I touched into this one, and I really like this one. Both of them are good, but the second one really is probably second for a reason. But um, anyways, he talks about the law of emergence, and he uses an acorn as an example because an acorn becomes an oak tree when you plant it and it's in the right conditions. It literally breaks out of the shell of the seed and it turns into a strong big oak tree. And he was saying, where's the oak tree when you're looking at the acorn? Where is it? Where does it come from? And it's that same idea of we all have a blueprint and that blueprint is unique to each of us and we all are basically uniquely an acorn trying to crack open, which that feels like death when it's happening because does the acorn know that it's going to turn into this beautiful oak tree, or does it just feel like the world is ending,
Well,
right?
I think the difference is how is it nourished?
Mhm.
And this is like, how do we nourish our vessel, right? Because you
Mhm.
could have a pile of acorns that end up rotting in leaves and don't emerge as anything, right?
Yeah,
Because they didn't have sunlight, they didn't have the correct amount of dryness and water, right? To actually emerge out of that shell. And that's the same for us,
yeah, that's what he talks
right?
about.
We need the things that nourish us, but not just our bodies, but our minds and our spirits too.
Yeah, exactly. It's what he talks about is, the difference between us and an acorn is that an acorn does need soil and sunlight and water and all those things, whereas it's more an energetic thing. I mean, it's physical too, for sure, but it's also like how can we cultivate our own environment even if we're not in the actual dirt and soil? You know what I mean? Like what does that look like for us as individuals? So,
Deepak Chopra's book, The Seven Spiritual Laws of Success. I go back to it over and over and over again. It's really short. It's like 80 something pages. But that really helps put you in the mindset of really what's important to nourish your mind, body, and spirit. So I would recommend that to anybody. Every time I give it away to somebody to borrow, I never get it back. I end up buying another one.
I think I've listened to it, but I should probably get the physical book too because it was
Yeah.
very short. I think it was like an hour and a half.
Yeah, you
It's
can listen to it, I think, on YouTube. I think it's available because, like I said, it's a
Yeah,
short book. But yeah, I go back to the laws over and over again when I feel disconnected.
yeah. I love that. So from here, I'd love to switch to what I like to call synchronicity story time. It's one of my favorite parts of the podcast because it's like talking about real life magic. And I do feel like there are certain aspects of your story that already feels very synchronistic for sure. But do you have any other synchronistic stories that you could share?
I think kind of my whole purpose journey has been one big synchronicity, right? It's, when I started on the journey, I went in one direction and then it popped me in another, and each thing was like connected to the same. Whether I read the book or I heard him on a podcast and then I bought the book, or then I went to a conference and saw them and bought another book there, or went and did a workshop with somebody and then decided to sign up for their certification program. That's a big synchronicity for me because I did a conference back in 2023 that I was kind of pushed into. It was the big Hay House conference. And if you're you're a tarot reader, you're familiar with Hay House. That's where a lot of our tarot cards come from, a lot of those authors. And I went to their big conference and I learned so much from some of those healers. And I did like the full on package. I did like the whole thing and ended up signing up for more certifications. And I knew when I was there, I had a vision that someday I was going to have a book and I was going to be on the stage doing a workshop. And now my book is coming out. And now I'm actually living these things. So it's your whole life is a synchronicity when you have an intention and you keep your decisions aligned with your intention. That intention showed up to me when I was there. I felt it. I'm like, this is what I'm meant to do. I'm meant to make this impact for people. I'm meant to use my story to help people go, I don't want a brain tumor. What am I doing next that's going to align properly? Or, I don't want to be stuck in this constant rut of being somewhere I don't want to be or being the person I don't want to be, that you can change, that you can change your life. And the Hay House kind of theme, Louise Hay created Hay House at 60 years old. So you don't have to wait. You don't have to be like, oh, it's too late. I didn't start making this change until my late 40s. So, now I'm 52 and I'm loving where I'm at. But what if I said, oh, I'm too late to learn new things? I'm just going to stay in the engineering. I'd probably be miserable and even more sick.
Oh, first of all, you do not look anywhere near your 50s. I would never have guessed that. But yeah, I 100%. It's just following the breadcrumbs essentially, right? And being able to be open to that. And I love the story that it's never too late. It's never too early. Like if there's, it's just the time is now. Like now is all we have.
Yeah, it's being present and listening to yourself and listening to your body. And it's funny, I have people tell me all the time that I don't look my age. And when I was young, everybody told me I looked older than I was. But I tell people it's like I have looked really old when I was really sick. And maybe I looked really healthy, but I was actually sick. What you look like on the outside is based on how you feel, right? So if you're lit up by what's going on, you're happy, you're healthy, you're more fulfilled, you're gonna look young and free.
Yeah. No, 100%. Like, I mean, kind of feel like talking to living proof right now for sure.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So my final question for you is what message would you like to leave as a legacy for the future generations to come?
That you are your greatest investment, not your job title, not your productivity, not your to-do list, not your home, not your car, not how your kids behave, but you invest in yourself. You're allowed to choose peace and joy and come back to what's really in you. Unshed the layers, be you. That's what I hope my book will help people do. The permission to come home to who they really are.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, especially the future generation. Like, can you imagine if they started out with that kind of messaging when they were children? You know, it's funny because I've noticed this in what is it, Gen Z? They seem to be a lot quicker at realizing what they want than millennials were, which, I don't, are you millennial? I'm not really familiar with that. Or are you Gen X?
X.
X, okay. Yeah, so I'm
I think
in
I'm, oh
millennial.
gee, I don't know. I'm 52, so I'm up there in one of those.
Yeah.
I'm right after the baby boomers.
Yeah, you're Gen X, you're Gen X.
Gen
And
X.
so and I'm millennial and then there's the Gen Zers and it's like Gen Zers, some people look at them and they're like, you have no structure. You aren't committed, you aren't disciplined. But then also if you really look at it, they're chasing their joy and they're trying to figure out how to harness it. Whereas, Gen X were taught to do the baby boomer thing, right? Get to those
We were
checklists and
we were pushed. We were like, this
yeah.
is what you're gonna do. I mean, that was my
Mhm.
story. That's why I did engineering. My
Yeah.
dad pushed me into it. I wanted to be a cosmetologist. I was pushed. Your math and science is too good. You have to do this. And because I was good at it and it came easy, I just did it and it made me money. So I was successful. But really,
Yeah.
what is success? Success is happiness and healthy and fulfilled and loving your life every day.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like millennials, I feel like by the time we came around, the structure for us to follow was still pushed on us, but it was breaking down. So a lot of us tried, and I think we just kind of realized a little bit younger, oh wait, this isn't what I want. You know what I mean? And Gen Zers even, even more so. So I love that message so much because can you imagine just children and young adults with that idea of self-agency and really they could choose happiness over the to-do list and choose themselves and what lights them up over what society wants them to do.
Yeah.
It's just such a beautiful idea to think about.
Right? And just think about how much less hate there would be in the world, how much more kindness there would be in the world if people were just happier and healthier and really living the life they want to live.
Yeah, there would be no need for competition in the sense of needing to be better than anyone else because everyone would be you'd understand that everyone was operating from their own place. So it would be more like being happy for them and following your own joy, and you wouldn't have to try and walk over people or like all of that would disappear.
Yeah, the competition would be your next thing,
Right,
right?
with yourself.
Depending on what that is, right? That's
Yeah,
what it would be. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, love that so much. If our listeners want to work with you and they want to get like, for instance, that free clarity call and work with you one on one, how would they find you?
So you can find me on my website. It's www.crystalmoonholistichealing.com. And you can also find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram on Crystal Moon Holistic Healing.
Perfect. I will be sure to put all of that in the show notes so they can find you. And thank you so much for joining me today. I loved our conversation. I loved the topics that we covered and just your story of resilience and just how far you've come is really cool.
Thank you, Sarah. I really enjoyed being part of your show and having this amazing conversation. And the more people it can reach and the more people who can maybe think about their lives a little differently, the better. So keep an eye out for my new book, Mission Me 2.0, The Science and Soul Coming Back to You, coming out in about a month.
Thank you for joining me on another inspiring episode. Remember, your purpose is a unique and unfolding path. I hope these conversations have ignited a spark within you. Until next time, keep exploring, growing, and embracing the beautiful adventure of connecting with your purpose. Stay tuned for more meaningful conversations. If you enjoyed the episode today, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And thank you for joining me on this journey.